Well, happy Thursday, all you fabulous freight masters out there. As the title suggests, do this to get more customers. Whether you're brand new starting out, maybe you've got a little time under your belt and you're struggling a little bit right now. Maybe what you were doing before, excuse me, wasn't working or isn't working. This is going to help, right? Some of you that I've talked to have you've been doing a lot of the right things, but there's a few gaps. And then some of you that, like I said, maybe you're just starting out and you really just don't even know where to start. So we're going to cover a bunch of that today. And before we do, here's a quick word from Operify. The road to building and operating a successful trucking company can be a frustrating one. Every aspect of it is important. So why would you factor with a company that treats you and your business like a number? Operify is your business partner with back office solutions so you can focus on your next load. And we're back. Okay. Hey, good morning to you. Thank you for joining. So one more thing before we get started on this is I would encourage everyone to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification. If you don't, assassins might slip in during the middle of the night and go kick a puppy. Okay, it's better to just do that than take that chance. Okay, so without any further ado, let's jump into it. And again, as always, if you guys have any questions, comments, I'd love to hear from you. So one of the first things that I would suggest that everybody do is there's two things. Is create a LinkedIn profile if you don't already have one. Okay, if you're not really familiar with LinkedIn, you're not on LinkedIn, right? We're going to talk about this like you're brand new. Okay, jump on LinkedIn, create a profile. If you're not sure how to create your profile, there's a lot of resources you can just Google. Check out some other profiles, other people that are, maybe in the same industry, and just kind of get a good feeling. It's essentially like Facebook, only it's for basically like the business world, right? A lot of professionals, salespeople, recruiters, shipping managers, freight brokers. I mean, anything you can think of, they're all on there, right? Or a majority of them are. So creating that LinkedIn profile is going to be the number one thing, and here's why. People will view your profile based on your bio on there, right? I have had, since I've had my LinkedIn profile, which is going on years now, again, I'm not going to date myself, right? But I have actually had shippers reach out to me directly asking if, they've got a pain point, they've got a load or a new lane or something that they're really struggling with, and they're asking if it's something that I can help them out with. So, then we can discuss, okay, well, is it the rate? Are there no loads coming out of that area? Maybe it's ending up in the middle of nowhere, Montana or something, and there's just nothing out there. And while the customer might feel that they're paying a fair rate, again, I'm using all of this as an example, that driver's going to end up having a deadhead like 350 miles from the delivery just to find another load, right? So they need to take that into consideration. It's sort of like one of the common examples is Florida. Anytime you ship anything into Florida, it's going to cost more because there's nothing that comes out of Florida. Florida doesn't really manufacture a whole lot. And with the exception of the produce season, there's really nothing there, right? So a lot of times drivers are almost forced to either run at a loss or deadhead out of Florida. Or what I've known some drivers to do is they'll take little short runs, and kind of a little phrase I've coined is they puddle jump their way out of there, right? And in which case that, maybe they make a few bucks, on their way out, depending upon whether they just want to hurry up and get out or if they can take their time to do it, right? Again, if I'm going too fast or you want me to repeat something, you guys have any questions, comments, by all means, hit me up. So you've got your LinkedIn profile. The next thing I need you to do is to join groups on LinkedIn. Just like on Facebook, LinkedIn has groups. Okay, there are groups on there for carriers, brokers and carriers. There's transportation managers, right? Some of the same people that we want to prospect. There's groups for them on there. So join those groups, and you might see on there, some of them kind of, what they're doing is they're networking with other transportation managers or shipping managers, whatever their title is, oftentimes, and trying to, maybe they're struggling with something in particular. Well, be the hero. Jump in there and say, hey, I would love to help solve this problem for you, right? Because essentially that's what we do as freight brokers. We're problem solvers, right? At least that's what we're supposed to be. We should be solving problems, providing excellent customer service, providing the customer with updates. When there's a problem, letting them know about it immediately, which I'm not going to get into a tangent with carriers, because I've had carriers, there's a problem, they don't let me know about it until after the fact. Like, it's just, it becomes a nightmare. But anyway, I digress. So join these groups. Network. This is going to be one of the most important words you're going to hear and things to do as a freight broker, right? Or really in anything, finding customers, regardless of what industry you're in, is that you want to network, right? Network with carriers, network with other brokers, all of these things. And then once you start to get established, and not to kind of jump too far ahead of myself, but once you maybe ask your customers if they have any referrals, right? Maybe they know another transportation manager, that's in a similar position or not, industry. Because I've actually had shippers over time, not a terrible amount, like on a daily basis or anything, but I have had some shippers say, hey, I've got a friend of mine in St. Louis who's also a shipping manager, but they're having a tough time with this, and they don't know why. Everything was going well, and then all of a sudden, poof, they can't get that lane covered, or that load that they're moving twice a week. They can't get it covered now. Would you mind reaching out to them, or can I pass on your phone number and everything, and maybe they can talk to you? Absolutely. And so don't be afraid to ask for referrals. And sometimes they just come to you. Sometimes just like with certain carriers, I can be a little bit greedy. I don't want anybody else using my carrier because we've got such a great relationship, and I don't want any other brokers or shippers to pull them away from me because we've got everything going so well, right? I don't want anybody to use them. So sometimes your shippers will do the same thing. They don't want anybody else to use their favorite broker, right? So in some cases that will happen, but again, sometimes you can ask them for referrals. They'll be more than happy to pass that on. Or they might just out of the blue say, hey, I've got a friend that has a situation. Second main thing is to be a part of the Facebook group communities. Now, some of the groups obviously are better than others. Some are just full of spam and all kinds of negative stuff, which, by the way, if you would like to join our Facebook group, we do our best to get the spam out, all the negativity. We've got a very strict set of rules that we'd like everyone to kind of adhere to. And I think so far we do a pretty good job at it. And the link for that is down below if you're not already a member. And I do ask, don't just hit the request button to join. Please fill out the questions because it helps us, right? Keep out spammers. So if we know that maybe you're a new broker, or you're just learning freight brokering, or you're a carrier, or you might even be a direct shipper. We have direct shippers in a group, and sometimes when they need help, they'll pop off with a post. So, yeah, join the Facebook groups. Obviously, with some of that, it's going to be a little hit and miss. I'm pretty proud of our group. I'm very proud of our members. They're a great bunch of people, and I think for the most part, the group really has a good positive feel to it, you know, and allows everybody to kind of network and build relationships and things and grow and succeed together, right? Because isn't that what this is all about? This is why we're here. This is why we're sharing this information. We're not being tight-lipped about anything. So the third thing that I need you to do is find a niche that you want to work on, right? Don't use the shotgun method where you're just soliciting any customer and hoping something sticks, right? You're closing your eyes and throwing at a dartboard. Don't do that, because especially when you're first starting out, don't do it. If you've grown and let's say your main focus has been produce, but now you want to get into shipping steel, just as an example, you know, but you've been a broker for a year or two, you know, then yes, by all means do that. And I do know some freight brokers that they only work the produce season, right? They're probably getting hit a little bit hard this year because the produce season hasn't kicked off the way it has traditionally. Some issues early on, but hopefully they're all doing well. But yeah, I know that there are some that they strictly work the produce season. They take the rest of the year off. They've made their yearly income doing that. There are others who will say, okay, I work the produce season, but then when that stops, I ship steel, you know, just an example, or car parts or something, you know, and that's what they do. And they don't really need to do a lot of it. They can kind of pick and choose what days they want to work and not work. But there again, and the produce market can be a very competitive one. Not saying others aren't, but that one especially just always seems to be a very popular one that everybody wants to get into. But if you're first starting out, not that I'm trying to down anybody. Produce can be a little bit complicated. So if you're just starting out, and you don't know what temperature to run corn at, or watermelons or carrots or potatoes or cucumbers or whatever, right? And there's certain produce that are a lot more fragile than others, right? And this is where having a good, strong care relationship will grow. So like maybe you jump into moving other types of refrigerated products that, you know, they're not as complicated as produce, but then eventually you want to merge into doing produce. Your carrier network, you know, your base that you've built, you know, yeah, we'll run produce for you. You know what I mean? These are people you can count on versus just throwing it out on the load board and hoping that this carrier, you know, will run at the right temp, and you're not going to have to deal with claims and things like this. Okay. And again, I see if some of you maybe have just joined us. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, the live chat is open. So by all means, feel free to interrupt me and ask questions or anything. So moving on. Yeah. And then with your niche, and then you might even find within a niche, like a micro niche, right? And I can give you probably several examples of that, but for all intents and purposes, pick your niche. And your niche might be shipping steel, right? So ship steel. Be an expert at shipping steel. It might be steel coils. It might be I-beams. It might be plate, right? It might be channel, square stock, whatever it is. And then focus on those customers that are shipping that product. Be an expert at shipping steel, right? Because those customers, once you become an expert at shipping steel, they're going to know it, right? When you start, so you've got one or two customers that you're shipping steel for, and then you solicit that third, you know, you're making your cold calls to other steel companies and things like this. When you call them, you're going to come across, whether you realize it or not, as an expert at shipping steel, right? What needs to be tarped, what size tarps, all of that kind of stuff that's involved, how many chains and binders, all of that stuff, right? What the weight of a particular load might be, right? So whether it can go on a step deck or not, okay, or a Conestoga, right? So all of these things are going to be portrayed during your cold call, and that shipper, rather than just saying, hey, this is Tim, I was just calling to find out if I could be added to your freight distribution list. Well, I could be any Joe Schmo, day one, not know what I'm doing. Do you really think they're going to trust me with $100,000 load? Probably not. And then they're probably going to say, well, we're all set, Tim. You know, maybe check back in with us in 6 months. They might not even say that. They might even just hang up the phone, right? And that's a very general cold call, right? We want to be unique, but we don't want to droll on for 5 or 10 minutes telling them how everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows either, right? Only to find out that maybe okay, let's say you're soliciting I don't know, a shipper that ships flat steel, right? And that flat steel gets punched out or water jetted or whatever and turned into some type of, I don't know, tractor gear. Okay. You might, I'm losing my train of thought here now, and I apologize. It's very warm in my office for some reason. So if you see me wiping, I don't know what's going on with the AC, but it's very, very frustrating. So knowing how to ship steel is going to come across, and there again, maybe as a micro niche, you might focus on shipping titanium, right? Years ago, when I was young, I actually worked for a titanium company, and they would bring in these huge. Well, we had blocks of it that they used, and there was a that we shipped out, and they would put this like electrode to it, right? And then it would burn into the titanium to a certain point. And I don't know, they used it for tinting glass or something. And then we also shipped out these huge plates. And I was a crane operator, right? We had a big overhead crane that we ran, and these things were extremely heavy. But maybe instead of steel, you're looking at titanium or copper, right? Or aluminum, right? Something different than just generalized steel or iron, right? So that would be an example. But all of this is going to kind of come through. And once you've determined your niche, the next thing you want to do is access directories based on your niche, right? So Google is like going to be your best friend. Just bear with me here. Let's see, USA titanium. Titanium manufacturer. Titanium manufacturer companies in USA. Okay. Bear with me, and I will share the screen with you here in just a moment. Let me just, oop. Let me see. Share. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so here's titanium suppliers, right? Titaniummanufacturers.com. And again, this is just an example. You can, whatever niche you decide to get into, but there's a list of all of these companies, suppliers list. Just going to take us, is this going to repeat? Or is this? I've actually never looked at this. So, but there's a lot of places out of Ohio, New York, Connecticut. So it seems like the Northeast. Oh, there's California, Midwest, Florida, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Cleveland, Ohio. But yeah, titaniummanufacturers.com. You don't like that one? So we'll go back to our directory. 5 aerospace titanium companies. So maybe you want to focus on shippers that are supplying aerospace companies, right? So there's a list of those. Again, Google is going to be one of your best friends. And we're going to come back to LinkedIn here in just a moment, and I'm going to tell you why. So here's largest titanium suppliers in the world. All of this, right? And I don't know, maybe you can narrow it down. There's titanium, yeah, titanium bikes. Maybe you want to ship titanium bikes, bike frames, all of that stuff, right? You can break it down. So all of these would be like getting down further and further into micro niches, right? So maybe you went from shipping, you know, you're looking at, instead of steel, titanium bikes, you know, something very, very strong, probably higher end product. But again, you kind of get the idea here, right? Just use Google. All right. So this might actually be the same one. Okay. Well, we can break it down by state now from there. Okay. So let's see. Do we have, okay, I'm in Michigan. So let's, oh, why is it showing? Okay. Titanium processing center. I do not see. Titanium processing center. All right. I am not seeing on there. Sometimes websites will have like the social media icons on them. This one, unfortunately, does not. Let's look at another one. Oh, why is this going to? Okay, well, let's just grab BRC Engineering Inc. And let's pull that up. Oh, they are temporarily closed. Okay, we'll go on to the next one here. Like I said, you might spend a little time with this, and one of the best times to spend on it is when you get done with work at the end of the day. Take an extra hour, hour and a half, and just do a little bit of research and get everything prepped for the next day. Okay, here we go. New Baltimore, Michigan. Let's see. Do they have a LinkedIn profile on here? I am not seeing a LinkedIn profile on here. Thought I saw an About Us. Sometimes the About Us might have like a list of company contacts or something. Or maybe even on the contact page. Sometimes it'll show up. All right. Well, while that's doing its thing, let's go over here back to LinkedIn. Right? We're going to copy paste. Again, I'm going to share this with you guys here in just a second. Let me just, okay. I'm going to share this one. There we go. That was a lot smoother than the last one, wasn't it? So here we go. Titanium Processing Center. You see here, there's 13 employees. So we're going to click on employees, and it gives us a list, right? And maybe it's the operations manager, water jet operator, inventory, sales. I'm not seeing a shipping manager. Okay. Now, oftentimes, maybe I would probably call the operation manager. Let's see. Let's see if that's even part of his job. Sometimes I've actually seen he doesn't really have a great profile. He needs to update his profile. But you get the idea, right? And we can go to, well, sometimes let's go and do this here. Sometimes you'll see people also viewed senior management. All right. Well, let's go back. Let's check another one here. All Metal Sales Inc. from our list here. We'll go back in here. Westlake, Ohio. 6 employees. Boy, these are small companies. Operation manager, logistics manager. There we go. At All Metals Incorporated, Joshua Z. Okay. So then what's the next step? Anybody? we call there and we ask for Joshua. Hey, this is Tim over at ABC Brokering. Is Josh available? Or they might even say, have an option in their greeting is, reach the logistics department or shipping department, whatever that may be. But either way, I would call and ask to talk to Josh. I'm sorry, who's calling? Oh, I'm like, oh, this is Tim, over at ABC. Oh, okay, one moment, because they're automatically going to think that you have some sort of a working relationship because you're asking for Josh by his first name, right? Now, here's the other thing. When you get over here, you see this custom brokerage team lead, transportation manager at Arcelor Middle. Okay, John Harris. Let's see who John works for. All right. And then we'll look to see what they do. Primary metal manufacturing, smarter steels for people on the planet. Okay, well, now we just got a whole nother lead, right? We got a whole nother lead just by checking this out. Director of Transportation, Cleveland Cliffs Logistics. Let's see. District Manager. There's Josh again. Show more. But you see this Transportation Manager. Now this is a little bit unrelated, but Transportation Manager at RPM Warehouse Coffee Transport. Okay, but yeah, there's typically some things on here. Let's see. Does Josh have somebody else? Director of Logistics, Transportation Manager, Traffic Coordinator, Ben Stone. Who does Ben work for? Oh, they're out of Wixom, Michigan. Grand Steel. Okay, so there's another steel company, right? And from there, Horizon Steel. All of these. You could just literally click on through, and you got all these leads at your disposal, right? And all you have to do is go back, Google their phone number, ask for Ben, and then do your prospecting, do your call, right? And we want to be trying to make as many calls as possible, especially when you're first starting out. I know 100 phone calls seems like a lot, and some people say, oh, you don't need to make 100 phone calls. Well, that's always been kind of the industry standard, right, is to make 100 calls. It's been that way for a good reason, right? But sometimes you can see like other company or groups that these people are associated with when you connect with them, right? So, and then we can go in here and we brought up earlier about the groups, shipping manager groups. Okay, see all groups. So then, all right, all filters. Not sure what I did there. It should have shown us an option. Let's say transportation manager. Okay, so again, maybe you're in food service. There's 14,000 members there, right? Maybe you want to get into construction type products, whatever that may be. General manager, transportation, logistics. That's not a very large group, but it still might be worth it. There's 13 pages of these, right? You just kind of have to go through them. Maybe what you're doing is heavy haul, right? You're having a hard time trying to find trucks. Well, there's a heavy truck network, heavy truck owners group, right? Get in there, let them know, hey, I've got this freight, or I've got some pending freight. Let's hook up. So logistics and transportation managers, there's only 3 members there, but you get the idea, right? And you might even get into maybe we'll get some different results if we change that to supervisor, right? I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but you get the idea. Logistics and logistics, transportation supervisor jobs in the USA. Now that brings us to another thing that I was going to bring up. It's kind of weird that popped up, but look at your job postings for shipping manager, shipping supervisor, transportation director, whatever their title is, right, that you're trying to pursue. And you can actually go through that listing and find those companies that are looking for a transportation manager or something. I have actually made, I can say this personally, I've made calls to companies like that are in search of someone to help, to hire a new shipping manager or supervisor, whatever the title is, and they've got somebody else from some other operations department in there filling in, and they're lost like a babe in the woods, right? They don't really have any idea what they're doing. They're just kind of going through the motions. And when you step in, and as a seasoned freight broker, and you're able to kind of help them out, they are very, very enthusiastic. They're more than willing to give you all kinds of freight. Just, get this nightmare off of my desk, right? You take care of it, because they want to get back to doing what they were doing, but somehow they got floated over. They had to fill that position at least temporarily until they got somebody else hired on. And then when the new person comes in, finally, if and ever, in fact, I've got one customer, the gentleman actually took over temporary, but ended up retaining that position and just stayed there. And I'm the only freight broker for them. And it's been that way since almost virtually the day that they took over that position, because I was able to kind of come in and take over and handle all of their problems for them, right? So it was very easy to just say, hey, Tim, take care of this, right? Now, obviously, if I'm gone or away, and we talk, they've got, if they've got questions and things like this, they know how to source their own trucks if need be, or I've got a backup that I can say, hey, I'm going to be out this day or whatever. Can you take, here, I'm going to forward the email, and everything. Can you handle that for me? But typically, we don't really have to run into a lot of that because we use regular carriers for a majority of that, of their freight. So not much of a biggie there, but yeah, it took a lot off of their plate, and they've been more than happy with everything since. But that, for the most part, is the breakdown on how to get customers as a freight broker or a freight agent. Again, I've talked to some brokers that have been, at this for a year or two, and they've been kind of going through the motions of the cold calling, and they belong to the Facebook groups, but they've completely forgotten about utilizing LinkedIn, right? And once they did that, then it sort of like opened up a whole nother world of networking for them. So, and again, join freight broker groups, right? They're on there. Connect with other people, like-minded, all of that are doing the same thing you are, sharing tips and resources, network, all of that kind of thing. So does anybody, you guys have been quiet this whole time. I keep glancing over at my other screen here. Anybody have any questions on everything that I just kind of went over? Did anybody get a new customer this week or last week? Or were you working on a new customer and you or you're, or maybe, you've got a follow up, you've got, some freight to quote. Nobody? I need a crickets sound bite or something that I can play, right? But so nobody has any questions on anything that I just went over. Again, networking is such a huge part of what we do. I know we always kind of get in a rut of thinking that acquiring new prospects is just calling, but that's not all there is to it. And you can actually make your life a lot easier, right? Your job a lot easier by just kind of jumping on and networking. And you don't necessarily even have to do it during the middle of the day. Do your calls, join these groups, and then when you get done at the end of the day, go through some of that. And here's another thing. If you are, I'm on Eastern Standard Time. So typically what I like to do to kind of make the most out of my day is when I'm making calls, right, and I'm focusing on a certain type of customer or niche. Let's go back to, let's say, titanium bikes, like we just saw earlier. I'm going to start calling on companies from the East Coast and work my way west throughout the day. Like my list is organized as such so that like I said, I'm making the most out of my day. So I'm not going, oh, it's 4:30 and they closed at 4 o'clock, and they're in, I don't know, North Carolina or something, and then I'm bouncing around here and there. Nope. I always work east to west whenever possible. Unless I've got, a specific area, maybe customers open up a new lane and we're shipping a lot of stuff to say Dallas, for instance, just off the cuff. And so now I've got to find more freight out of Dallas for my carriers that are running down there, and hopefully finding something coming back to, wherever we're shipping out of, let's say Cleveland, for instance, so we can kind of put that dumbbell together. Right. And that's another part about, I plan on doing another video on other aspects of becoming a successful freight broker, but I felt like I kind of needed to sort of reiterate some of this stuff and kind of go into some of this. And again, I've got a longer video on stuff. If you guys just search back, I actually have it prioritized on the on YouTube there. Let me see, what is it? Let me go over here to my playlist. Yep. There is actually a playlist on freight broker sales, so you can check that out if you'd like. And again, guys, gals, everybody, we've got all these resources, freightbrokerresources.com. If you need anything on there, I actually just did an update, a small update, but it's on the homepage of the truckersresource.com. Got to change things up on it a little bit. And I plan on doing some more. I've got to get to the freightbrokerresources.com website and do some more updates there, possibly today. I've got some more stuff. And guys, if you still haven't claimed your free freight shipper list for the state of Kentucky that we talked about a couple of videos back, watch that video. Get on that. Get your free list for the state of Kentucky, right? And you can break that down. It's all segmented by industry type, right? Whether it's steel or produce or whatever, car parts or whatever. So if you're whatever your niche is, you can actually look through that in the state of Kentucky and focus strictly on those particular customers, right? So, no other questions, comments? Did you guys enjoy today's video? I kind of had fun with it, even though it's like 114 degrees in my office for some reason. I'm going to have to step outside for a minute after this. Anything you felt like I missed? Did I leave any gaps that you guys, because I know I kind of went through some of this stuff sort of fast because a lot of this is just automatic to me, and I don't mean to rush through stuff here as much as I do, but All right. Well, again, don't forget to join the Facebook group if you're not already on there. And as always, be kind to one another, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye now.